Good.
Okay. Yeah, here with Doug Terranova. Love your last name, by the way.
Well, thank you.
What is it? The Big World?
New Earth.
The New World.
New Earth. Yeah.
Yes.
New World. New Earth.
Yeah. So we're here pretty much right after the Joe Exotic trial. So I wanted to get straight to it. What were your thoughts on what happened on Friday?
Although I guess it wasn't unexpected, I was still very disappointed in the resentencing. 1 year seemed more like a slap in the face, a reduction in 1 year, especially when there was a preview of some of the evidence that's to come. The judge had at his discretion to knock off several years, and John Phillips, Joe's attorney, asked for 90 months, figuring somewhere maybe around we might get 12 to 15 years. And again, I say we, meaning Joe. So 21 years was kind of a slap in the face.
And it remained on the upper end of what was legal to. Actually, it remained on the maximum end.
Yes.
The range.
Oh, sorry.
There's the wind. The range was actually on the lower end. He could have sentenced him to 210, which is 210 is 15 years. So no, it's fine. Okay. Yeah, we can continue.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll just keep my hand on this. But I wanted to, I think for the audience that doesn't know, your relationship with Joe goes a long, long ways back, and you were actually tapped to be his running mate when he ran for president, right?
Yes. It goes back to 2012 is when I met Joe, and we've had a good working relationship and a good relationship. Many people saw Tiger King. That was their introduction to Joe, and that was edited to the point to make him look really crazy. Made for good TV. And while Joe certainly had his moments, he was not crazy. He was driven to a point by the end, and in the end, I wasn't around him. I stopped going around him once Jeff Lowe came into the picture, and things started. You could see things start going sideways, and I knew what was being driven over there. I saw some illegal stuff starting to happen. And I just said, if this is how it's going to be, I just can't be around here. I'm not going to get myself in trouble for it. And it did. And I think that Joe at that point was just desperate and wanted to believe what he believed anybody that said they could help him, because he was getting desperate at the time. Carol had been just driving him crazy with different little things, and wanting his DirecTV shut off, wanting his watch, wanting his mattress, wanting his, every little thing. So, she had been on him for years. And the thing that she did that probably drove him just as crazy was that anybody that would hang around with him, she would attack and drive his friends away. They either couldn't put up with it, didn't want to put up with it, or lost business because of it. She went after me. I wasn't anywhere near her 911 animal abuse site until about a year after I started hanging out with Joe. And then suddenly I'm a no good, dirty son of a gun. PETA calls me a notorious animal abuser. I was kind of proud of it until I saw that she called the Friscos that, the Cardins that. I said, wait, I'm notorious. They can't be notorious too. So, they start using their punch words, and they start bringing things up. They start filing complaints against you, and you start having the USDA out more and more, and she has her minions following, and she wants to talk about the other day in the trial. She said, oh, Joe's fans follow me, and they harass me, and they threaten me, and well, welcome to my world, lady. You did that to all of us for years and years and years. I mean, the world didn't know about Carol Baskin until 2020, but I knew about Carol Baskin in 2008 when she started coming after me, and then really laid into it in 13, 14, and 15.
So what were the things that she did to you personally? Because just so the audience is clear on this, while you were Joe's running mate, you were not involved in his animal operations. You had your own. So tell us a little bit about that. It's almost like a circus, right?
Right. Circus acts, yes. And Joe and I never were in any kind of quote-unquote business together. There were times when I was home and he wanted to add an attraction to the zoo, and I would take the animals up there and do shows up there. He would charge a little extra for his tours, but then we did our educational show up there. And there were times when he had fairs that he was doing his cub petting at, and what I would do is take my tigers in and do shows to draw the crowds over, and then we'd do the educational shows and then give them the opportunity. They didn't have to stay. The shows were free. The fair paid for them. And then he could offer cub petting, cub pictures, and things like that. So we did that several times, but I was never involved in the cub petting or which I didn't think anything was wrong with. It's not like we were breeding 20 or 30 of them and using them and dumping them in the trees or dumping them in the woods or giving them to other people. That's the big story. I've got several you saw today that were cubs that were petted that have since grown up and come into my shows. And to me, I can't use the small ones. So it was perfect. They were already accustomed to being around people, working with people, seeing different things. They were acclimated very well, and they worked out perfect. There's many people in the circus that got tigers from Joe or Doc Antle because of the way they were already conditioned. So as far as what Carol did, I mean, they would file complaints with the USDA. That's the biggest thing that they do. Her and PETA, she takes money and spends money. I don't know how. I know people that run true sanctuaries and they don't have any money because the money goes to the animals. But Carol always seems to have money, and she was buying $100,000 plate tickets to HSUS fundraisers, things like that. And she filed complaints all the time on me. One time, I can remember in particular, we got a USDA inspection. We were traveling from a little town in Minnesota to Fargo, North Dakota. And we were scheduled to do a press conference in the morning with one of the animals, a little PR. And we got in late because the night before, one of my trainers was driving his pickup truck. It was icy. And he slid off into the ditch, jackknifed the truck and trailer, and hit a pole. So we were stopped on the road. We had to pull the truck and trailer, get the wrecker over there, do the whole thing. We didn't get in until late. So the new press was there when we got there. So they started unloading the truck, and I did an interview while they were unloading the animals behind us. And I said, I'm sorry. Usually I bring out one of the younger ones and let you see her. We had an accident last night. The truck was in the ditch, and it took a little while. Well, Carol called the USDA and said, I want a wellness check done on the tigers because he said his truck was in a wreck. We weren't talking about the tiger truck. So the USDA came out. Of course, they were going, no, we want to look at the animals. Have they seen a vet? I said, seen a vet. Here's their health papers. Well, what about since the accident? I said, what are you talking about? We have a complaint here that you were in an accident with a semi and with the tigers. I said, no, and we showed them the pickup truck and the trailer, and they took pictures of all that, and the RV trailer. And they just shook their heads. And that's the kind of stuff they do. I got a complaint that I was letting kids touch the tusks of elephants during one of my fair shows with elephants. And that's true, except the tusk had been cut off and I was passing the tusk around. And all they heard was they heard somebody say, no, that was so cool to touch that tusk. They hadn't seen my show, but they filed a complaint. So the state of Louisiana came out, the USDA came out. And by the way, it's not illegal for me to have them come and touch the elephant or touch the tusk. It wasn't illegal.
That's right.
But that's not what we were doing. So they take your words, they change them around. I had somebody the other day say, it's really terrible what they did up in Wisconsin. I said, what's that? She said, at Baraboo they were feeding human meat. I just looked at people, how do you even believe anything like that?
It's ludicrous.
What they said was, somebody had asked them what they feed the tigers. They say, it's all meat, we buy it at the stores, it's for human consumption.
Yeah. So it's a game of telephone. Where
exactly.
Uh-huh.
The farther down this line it gets, and they just switch it up. But you get people that believe that.
Absolutely.
And so it's very, they mislead you. Carol had a private investigator follow me to a fair and videotape. I had a 40-foot truck. It's called a beast wagon. The cages are built inside, so they're all big, and they can be divided off. Although the whole truck was opened up, all the tigers had the whole trailer to get into. They had a ramp coming out of the trailer to an arena. that was covered with shaded, covered, had a pool inside it, a stock tank with water in it, and toys all in the arena. And it was for just a demonstration. I mean, exhibition. We weren't doing even shows. We were just doing exhibition there. And my nephew was cleaning out the meat freezer on Sunday morning. The fairgrounds wasn't open yet. This is how we caught the guy videotaping us.
Wow.
And while he's cleaning the meat freezers out, he cleaned out a freezer, and then he was moving the meat from the dirty, I say dirty, had blood in it, thawed out a little bit. So he's moving the meat from one freezer to the clean freezer. The tigers all saw that. He's moving meat around. They're jumping around. They all came running up. Right? They're excited. Oh, maybe he's going to feed us. You know how it is when you're moving dog food around and your dogs are jumping at your feet.
Yes.
So this guy zooms in where he just gets 7 tigers in 2 cages. And they're all crammed in there, and they make a big voiceover about this is how these poor animals travel down the road. Not even enough room to turn around. 7 of them crammed into 2 cages.
Yeah.
And then she continued to say, and you can see they're obviously stressed out from the loud music of the carnival. Well, the carnival wasn't anywhere near us, and there was no music because the carnival wasn't open at the time. But they they will take stuff and take it out of context. When you see these videos of people supposedly whipping the tigers, there's sound effects on it. They never come out right away.
Yeah.
They wait years to bring them out. Year, 2 years. They're editing, they're putting sound effects in, they're doing voiceovers, they're playing with the music, using keywords that set people off. It's movie magic, folks.
Very manipulative.
Yes.
But the reality is, before all of this harassment, your animals were actually pretty famous, right? Because they've been in Hollywood productions. Tell us a little bit about that, so people have a idea of what life was before all of this harassment. And I think the public has lost, because of all this harassment, has lost the gift of being able to see and interact with these animals close up, which allows people to develop interest to then research more and become more knowledgeable. What's happening right now is you get these manipulated sound bites, like you said, and then these manipulated sound bites create false perceptions and ignorance as a result.
Absolutely. And with today's cancel culture, you just have to say one word wrong or one key word to get people
or look at
wild
someone
up.
funny.
And you can certainly be led down the wrong path very easily. People are being conditioned more and more to lose their rights and to lose their what do you want to you always tell them to research it yourself, and your liberties are going, but we're allowing it because we're just following suit. And when I look at what's being done even to pets, these people in the long run, the animal rights activists do not want you to own, wear, eat, or drink any kind of animal or animal byproduct. You're not going to wear leather, wool, or fur. You're not going to eat meat, eggs, bacon. You're not going to have a dog or a cat as a pet. PETA believes that a rat is a pig, is a dog, is a boy. All are equal in life, and that not one. If a fire is going, you don't save the boy automatically. You save the animals too. Or if you can only save one, you save one. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the human gets saved and the rest perish.
Correct.
And then there's all these ban laws now. Now they've got it where the pet stores are only allowed to sell animals from shelters, and there's pet store bans in many states. We're working on one in San Antonio right now. And I'm certainly not against adopting an animal. And there's many good dogs that need to be adopted, dogs and cats that need to be adopted. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able. You hear the old adage, adopt, don't shop. There's so many dogs being brought into this country for the adoption programs. They're coming in from all over. And they're coming in with diseases. They're not health checked, and they've brought diseases into Kansas. They've brought diseases into New Jersey. Also, you're not dealing with, when you adopt something, you don't know any of its history. You don't know any of its background. You don't know any of its lineage. You don't know any of the DNA of the parents, and so you don't know what you're getting. You don't know if they have a history of aggression, and there's been documented time and time again cases of animals that are aggressive when they get adopted.
Right.
Whereas, if you want to go buy a purebred animal, there's nothing wrong with that, and you should be allowed to do it.
We need options. We need choices. We need breeders, and we need rescuers.
And you shouldn't be shamed for making the choice to purchase an animal.
Absolutely. But back to your animals, I know a lot of them ended up doing some work in Hollywood. Tell us a little bit about that.
We've done quite a bit of stuff. Worked on several movies, Ace Ventura, When Nature Called, did some Harold Kumar stuff. I mean, a lot of smaller movies. We were on the TV show Barney. We worked on that. It was on the educational channel, public television, and we did that for 19 years. Walker Texas Ranger was 9 years. We did a spin-off of Walker Texas Ranger. It was called Sons of Thunder. We're on that for a couple of years. We did the first 2.5 years of, not the first two. The first season of Prison Break was filmed in the prison in Joliet, Illinois. But once they escaped, we did 2.5 more seasons down here in Dallas. They filmed down here. And that's because in Dallas area, you can have almost any kind of environment, whether you want to go to the desert, whether you want to go to South America, whether you want to go to upper New York. I mean, we have all different areas of town. We have a Chinatown area, so it's a great place to film episodes. We filmed that here. We also filmed a show called Chase. We did 1 season with that, and then that got canceled. But that was on Fox for a year. So of course, I can't tell you how many commercials we've done.
So what happened overall? What an impressive resume, of course. But what happened now to those animals that were used to doing this work and were probably very happy? And I've met some of your other animals, not necessarily the ones that were in Hollywood, but I've seen how tame even your chickens are. I mean, it's amazing, right?
Chickens get a lot of work, believe it or not.
Oh, I know, because I've had a lot of wild chickens in my life, and none of them that come up to you and eat right off your hand like you do. You're obviously, in a way, like a total subject matter expert and maybe animal whisperer, as some would say. But what happened to these animals that were working, and give us a little picture around that.
Well, at one point I had 37 dogs because dogs worked a lot, and of course, we're talking 15 years or more ago. So some of them passed on. When I stopped doing quite as much, I found it. Walker Texas Ranger stopped. I had bears that worked on there. I had mountain lions that worked on there. And the bears went to the Abilene Zoo. They had lost some animals and had a beautiful little exhibit with a pool. So I took the bears there because I was traveling more, and so they were just kind of stuck in a cage here, and I didn't like that. The cougars went to Joe's place up at Wynnewood. Like I said, the dogs either found homes with other people, or I adopted them to other people, or they passed away. I still have many tigers here. I have 9 tigers here still that worked. Circuses. They did also commercials and movies. We did some videos with them. My elephants now have stopped performing, and they are in the Dallas Zoo. They went to the Dallas Zoo in 2010. So a lot of stuff. I still have horses here that work. You just saw me sit at the edge of the pond, and the ducks came all the way across the pond to say hello.
Yeah, very friendly ducks.
So yeah, I mean, we keep some things here, and we still do some animal exhibits. We have sheep, we have donkeys, we do a lot of Christmas stuff.
The farm animals.
Yeah, because you can do Christmas stuff with that. But as far as COVID was not anything didn't do any good to the entertainment industry at all. At that point, nothing was working. So many people that had animals had a very difficult time. I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have a supporter that loves the animals and loves what I do, and they have been feeding my tigers for about 3 years now.
That's great.
In fact, they give me so much meat that I hope there's other facilities, 2 or 3 other facilities that have benefited from the overages that I have.
That's great.
And so yeah, that's good. But yeah, business itself has gone down. I've had to start doing other. Speaking of chickens, here they come. They've seen us down here. They found us. We've had to find other methods of making a living, and it's still show business. I've still learned to do show stuff in show business, but I've had to find other non-animal things because first off, COVID stopped everything, so nothing was working. And then second off, of course, when we stopped performing, the animal rights people didn't stop lobbying, didn't stop not trying to institute bans, and so they kept up with their legislation. and that's probably the biggest killer of all of our rights is and liberties is the animal rights groups.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, these lawsuits and these inquiries that USDA goes on these private owners like Doug here, they don't stop, and they don't stop the harassment. And even at some points, they were still they had their COVID backlog, but was being very fast in processing the paperwork without looking at the briefs you filed and everything. Right? You want to
Correct.
say a few things?
Well, we had at one point they had charged me with 23 violations of the Animal Welfare Act, and we went to court, and 20 of the 23 were dismissed. The other two of them I wasn't sanctioned on, and one was a willful violation, and I readily admitted to that. It wasn't anything to do with the animals. Now, if you listen to the animal rights people, I've been convicted of animal abuse, and I've never ever in my life been charged with any kind of animal abuse. In fact, the thing that I got cited on was that I didn't turn in an itinerary telling them where the animals were performing, and I didn't do it on purpose because I was setting them up, and by the way, that worked. But it was a willful violation, so I was cited for that. It infuriated the USDA, and they came back trying to say the judge was not qualified to hear the case, even though it was their judge. They had put the judge in there. So they appealed the whole decision. The judicial officer that it was appealed to had ruled favorably in several cases that were similar to mine. So we were pretty excited about that. But they stalled off my appeal, which usually is 6 to 10 months to 2.5 years until he retired. And then as soon as they promoted another judge who we knew to be leaning more towards the animal rights side of it, she overturned every single one of the cleared charges, and the majority of them she overturned because she said, quote unquote, Mr. Terranova did not provide enough evidence to prove his innocence. When all along we've all learned and know that it is the prosecution's job and to prove you're guilty.
Yes.
Don't
So
have
due
to
process.
Don't have to prove we're innocent.
Right.
So we filed a case. We filed a brief with the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, and we sent it in February, and then COVID hit. February 2020, COVID hit. So they closed the court. There was no hearings, no nothing. They didn't do anything for I don't even know how long, 8 months. But that didn't stop cases from being filed, so when they came back, they were just overwhelmed. And they deemed my case to be one that wasn't so important. And they just said, look, we're overwhelmed. We don't have time to look at everything. You're fighting the agency. You filed a case against the agency. The agency is the expert in this matter, so we're going to come down on the side of the agency. And they didn't really, it was a 7-page argument. Most of the arguments are 80 pages most opinions are 80 pages. This is a 7-page opinion. Like, okay, the USDA says this, you say this, they're the experts, so they're right. And they weren't right. And I have never, to this day, lost a hearing that I've testified in front of a non-USDA judge. I've never lost a hearing that I've testified in front of a non-USDA judge. It's easy for the judicial officers to overturn you because they don't have to look you in the eye. They get a brief that's written, and the brief that the USDA wrote on in my case, was personal. It was very, very nasty. I mean, to the point of calling me names, basically called me a liar. It was very nasty.
Kind of like what I saw in that trial the other day. I felt that it was personal, and
very much brought back some traumatic memories of my cases because they personally went after Joe the other day. You're right. You saw the same thing I did. And even though we kind of half expected it, to hear it come out of that judge's mouth the way it came out, it was like a slap in the face is what it was. It just really shook you.
So there's really a lot of collusion going on, right? Wouldn't you agree with a lot of USDA and
absolutely.
To go after private owners?
Absolutely. Right. And Carol Baskin and PETA.
PETA, yes.
and HSUS all collude with the USDA. I have tons of evidence of that, and I was invited to a hearing called Lions, Tigers, and Bears, to a seminar that the USDA put on in Kansas City. Joe was going to go, and I was going to go, and they banned Joe from coming, and then I was going to go, and they tried to ban me from coming. I had to get Congressman Cornyn on the phone, and then they suddenly found room for me, and when I got there, they put a tracking device on my vehicle right there in the parking lot in front of me. They pulled me off on the side, stood there with armed guards, and put 2 other guards searched my car with a dog, had me open everything, glove compartment, trunk, everything, right in front of all the other attendees, just trying to embarrass me right from the beginning. But that night when I went to dinner with everybody, and we were discussing that, and I had other people come in from out of town, and we were all discussing what had happened and what was going on. The next day, everybody that was at dinner with me was bomb checked.
Wow.
And I have a recording of my inspector telling me the guy's name, that's head of security there, he used to work for the CIA, and that he had every capability of putting a tracker in my car. And of course they could put it in there and then when I'm leaving that next night, they could take it off. It was a rental car. But they followed us to eat. We even ate in Kansas, not even in Kansas City, Missouri, where the hearing was. We went to Kansas about 20 miles away just to make sure we didn't run into anybody. And they had pictures, and they checked every single person that was at that dinner table that night.
That is absolutely amazing. And earlier we had discussed even your current congressman right now who just got elected in 2018 as a Republican even,
Yes.
but was quickly bought off by PETA, which...
HSUS.
Yeah.
Yes. His name's Lance Gooden. He was our state representative, and he was voting against us on, HSUS tries to institute bans every year here in Texas, every session. Since 1996, we have fought every session against a ban of some kind or other with exotic animals. More regulation, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's already illegal to have them in the state if they're not registered. So there's not much more you can do to make it more illegal. They keep saying, well, there's more here. We got to find them. Well, making them more illegal, they're already illegal. So making them, you can't make something more illegal than it already is. But anyway, we were talking to him, and he said, no, I'm going to vote for it. And our district has more exotic animals in it than almost any other part of Texas. And I said, how can you do that? And to be honest with you, one of his staff members came to me and said, I will deny this to the day I'm born if you tell anybody. But he said HSUS came in here the first week we were in the office, sat down with us and said, if you will support us, you'll never have to worry about campaign funds again. And boy, oh boy, when he ran for U.S. Congress, his ads were all paid for by the Humane Society Legislative Fund. It's right there on the bottom of the ad, and he's also got a stamp on the top of it saying supported by the Humane Society Legislative Fund. So he's been bought off by the animal rights people. They also have a spouse plan, and I heard about this when I was up lobbying in Washington and meeting with people. And they said, we very rarely get people from your side in our offices, but PETA and HSUS are here every day. He said they have a spouse plan. One of the senators that was leaned more favorably to the animal welfare side of issues instead of the animal rights side told us, he said, they have a spousal program. They went right after my wife right away. I said, what is that? And he explained to me that as a senator or representative, when you come to Washington, you bring your family and say, I'm married and my wife joins the garden club or the golf club or the country club. HSUS then puts a woman or a man, if it's a woman with her husband, and says, go be your best friend. And so she joins whatever club you join, and she becomes your friend.
She's a salesperson.
And pretty soon, she's saying, Mark, your wife is going to be voting on this bill. And well, don't you see, this is what's really going on. There's so many lies about it, but we really need these votes. And you go back and you say, honey, what's your plans on this vote? When you need to do this and this and this. And they use them unwittingly to force them, not force, but to persuade them to vote their way. So they have a lot of different tricks. It's not illegal what they're doing.
And they have a lot of money to do that. They have resources.
when you look at the TV and you see that sad thing and you drop that $18 in there, you know that HSUS doesn't have a shelter. PETA doesn't have a shelter. The Humane Society of the United States does not run a shelter. And when you bring that up, they say, we never said we ran a shelter. But they've got $157 million or whatever comes in this year. It goes up every year. They've got millions coming in. They now are running the Cleveland Amory Black Beauty Ranch here in Texas. It's about 45 miles from me. And they picked up a tiger out of Houston 2 sessions ago. They went down and got this tiger that was supposedly in this drug house. Boy, the tiger was in excellent shape. Young tiger. They went and picked it up, and they did a fundraising campaign saying that they needed to raise $24,000 in 24 hours to build it in an enclosure. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys have this year reported $157 million, and you've got to have 24,000 more.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And it's just, these animals to them are pawns. They don't care about the animals. They care about the money. They care about the control. Carol has a 20-year plan where she's the only one left with tigers at the end of it. And that's kind of gotten a kink in it since Tiger King. She got the publicity she wanted, but it's not
The publicity.
It's not that she got the publicity she deserved, but not the kind she wanted. Let's put it that way.
And I think that's the point of these series, and what I'm trying to do here is just to give the other side a chance to kind of weigh in and say, hey, these are private owners that had a good business for the longest time, and basically they were pushed out of business through all of this bullying, through filing complaints based on hearsay, and then wrecking the lives of private wildlife owners like Doug here. So
they sure run you through the ringer. I'm over $500,000 in losses between lawyers and travel expenses and witness expenses and producing this and producing that, and not to mention jobs that have been lost. At one point I had gotten 7 tigers from Doc Antle to put a second unit out because we were booked for the State Fair in Honolulu. I spent money on a trailer, remodeling it, that beast wagon that they could all live in, so that when they were on the ship they weren't in little tiny transport cages. And boy, I spent all that money and getting ready to go. And Carol and PETA went to the I had a permit already for Hawaii, and went to the Agricultural Commission and got the Agricultural Commissioner to revoke my travel permit to Hawaii. So we not only lost that work that was coming in, but the other money I spent right there, between the money I spent to get ready to go to Hawaii, the permits, not booking anything because you were going to be gone all summer, and then the loss of the contract. I lost almost $150,000 on that one job, and that was just them doing their bullying techniques.
Yeah. So people must know about this, and also how the government has basically played partners to special interest groups.
Absolutely.
And also people that in the business like Carol that want to put their competitors out of business, or their perceived competitors, because really you guys are in different areas. So, it's really sad to hear all of this. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience?
Just the same thing. One of the biggest dangers is the people that are being appointed, not elected. You can always elect another person, but my former congressman told me that that's the issue you have, even with presidents, is they get in and they start appointing people, and the government employee union is so strong that you can't fire them once they get in. He was telling me about a man that worked in a commission that went to work every day and watched porn on his computer, his government computer, and they couldn't fire him. So he didn't do his job at all, but they couldn't fire him. And because the government workers union is so strong that you can't get rid of them. And that's the thing. Rather than being elected as an elected official, a political appointee has it carte blanche. They can get away with a lot more. They're much more dangerous and much more damaging. And that's what we have inside the USDA.
So let's basically learn from all this, understand the nuances of, these players that get appointed, and then others that are elected and bought off, like your congressman. I mean, those things we have to know and be very mindful, but also to fight legislation, right? Obviously, Big Cat Safety Act is anything but. And also on a local level in the different states, they attempted something here in Texas, but you guys successfully fought it back. Tell us a little bit about what we should be doing, and putting
Sure.
our attention towards.
This is something that's happening in Indiana right now, and on the face of it, it sounds like a good thing. Everybody's upset with the cub bedding right now, the touching the animals and being able to do that. So they call this a no contact bill, which says, you know, they tout it as not being able to pet cubs, not being able to touch certain exotic animals, and no matter what that is, I mean, you're either for it or you're against it. But that's not what the bill says. The bill actually says you're not allowed to be in an area that's unsafe to you. And it's described as being able to even accidentally touch an animal. You came to my place today and I took you up to see the tigers. I have a 8-foot tall perimeter fence 5 feet away from my chain link tiger cages that have tops on them and all that. You could have stayed outside legally. If this bill would have passed in Texas, it would have been illegal for me to open my gate and let you come inside there, because even though they were behind a chain link enclosure, if you stuck your finger through, you could have had the opportunity to still touch the animal, and that's illegal, would have been illegal under that bill. Worse yet, they'll say it's illegal to ride an elephant or illegal to touch an elephant. And no matter what you think on that, that's fine, but what it really does, it says you're not allowed to be in the same space as the animal. So if you go to a circus or go to a fair and even a zoo, to be honest with you, and there's just a little barrier fence, then you still have the opportunity to jump that fence and go touch. It's happened in San Diego a couple of years ago where a guy jumped in with the elephant, took his kid in with the elephant, take a picture. So it's not a contact law. It's a ban. It's a backhanded way in to ban the elephants from being in a circus or a zoo where they could get them. You have to be able to read these laws and not listen to the sound bites, and it's more important than ever these days to read the entire bill before it comes in. Even the Congress people don't do that anymore.
I like that term, backhanded ban, and that's really what's going on. And make sure to realize that, hey, do we want to live in a world where we don't get to interact with animals and take away the freedom and liberties of those who are experts like Doug here, that know how to make it safe and give people the opportunity for learning and caring about these animals and finding a passion to maybe save them and get involved, right? In the end of the day, we're being robbed of that.
Yes. Not only we are being robbed of it, but the general public is being robbed of it as well. The children. I'm so sad for my youngest son that he didn't get to grow up around the elephants like my other children did. He was 2 years old when I sent him to the Dallas Zoo in 2010. So he didn't get that time around them. He had a little time. He used to still wash the elephants and brush the elephants. And I had one of my younger elephants used to love him. And he would sit in a wagon and she'd pick up the tongue of the wagon and pull him around the barn, pull him here, pull him there. When he was younger, I'd say, go get the baby. He'd be sitting in his car seat and she'd scoop their tusk through the handle and wrap her trunk around him and carry him down to wherever we were going. He would sit on the tractor when I was cleaning the elephant corral, and they would stand around him and put their trunks all over him and smell him and sniff him. But he didn't get to grow up with them and ride them and perform with them like my older children did. It's sad, and I'm sad for people today that go to a circus and aren't seeing elephants. There's very few circuses left with elephants. Only 2 or 3 that are still traveling with elephants.
So make sure to go support them.
Go support them. Go support them for sure.
Yeah. Anything else you want to tell our audience?
No, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience, and thank you for being up there to support Joe as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doug, for everything, and stay strong, and I'm pretty sure things will turn around once people see how ludicrous all of these rules are.
Let's hope.
Thank you.